It was the third day since I'd come back to life when Amanda showed up. She carried an exquisite food box, smiling like a gentle spring breeze. "Zoe, look what I brought you. Your favorite." She opened the box, and a sickly sweet scent mixed with strange spices hit me in the face. It was a smell I wouldn't forget even in death. It was the longevity pastry. In my past life, this pastry was the beginning of the end for my warm, happy home. A month after eating it, my father was diagnosed with a rare cancer. It was supposed to be early stage, but it metastasized with terrifying speed, draining our family's savings and leaving him to die in agony. My mother, overwhelmed by grief and chronic insomnia, suffered a mental breakdown and followed him shortly after. I was left guarding an empty house, washing my face with tears every day. My health deteriorated rapidly, and I died of organ failure before I turned 30. It wasn't until I was on my deathbed that Amanda stood over me and pityingly told me the truth. She had bound herself to something called a lifespan transfer system. As long as she gave us items imbued with blessings, and we accepted them with genuine gratitude, our family's lifespan and luck would be continuously siphoned off to her sickly son, Lucas. "Zoe, don't blame me," she had said, stroking my withered hand, her tone gentle yet cruel. "I'd do anything for Lucas. Look how healthy he is now. He even got top grades in his class. It's all thanks to your family's blessings." It turned out my family's suffering was just fertilizer for her son's brilliant life. And I, the fool she'd tricked for a lifetime, had even gone to the temple to pray for her son when he was sick. "Zoe, come on, try it. Amanda's voice pulled me back from the hellish memories. I looked at her gentle, harmless face, and my heart felt like it was being squeezed by an icy hand. The pain was suffocating. I couldn't expose myself yet. I took a deep breath, forced a grateful smile, and took the pastry wrapped in a death curse. "Amanda, you're so good to me. You always think of me." "Of course. Look at how close we are." She looked at me with satisfaction, placed the box on the table, and seemingly casually mentioned, "Hey, hasn't your dad's blood pressure been a bit high lately? This pastry uses several rare medicinal herbs. It's great for seniors. Make sure you have him eat a piece." See, her target was so clear. My dad was first on the list. Definitely. I nodded repeatedly, acting just as trusting as I had in my previous life. My dad will love it. As soon as I saw Amanda out, the smile on my face vanished instantly. I picked up the pastry. It felt like holding a red-hot iron brand. Throw it away? No, Amanda would just find an excuse to send something else. I looked out the window and saw an orange tabby cat lazily walking across the lawn. A thought struck me like lightning. I carefully broke the pastry into small pieces, put them on a clean plate, and carried it downstairs. I had proposed the establishment of the stray animal rescue station in our gated community. There were a dozen rescued cats and dogs there. I placed the pastry at the feeding station. Several stray cats immediately gathered around, sniffed, and began to eat in small bites. I stepped back, opened the video camera on my phone, and recorded the scene. In my sweetest voice I narrated, "Look at my bestie Amanda. She has such a big heart. She made these pastries by hand, and even the kitties love them. Don't worry, girl, I passed your love along." After recording the video, I sent it directly to Amanda. She replied quickly with a voice message. I tapped play. Her laugh sounded stiff. "Oh my God, Zoe, you're too much. Why did you feed it to the cats? That was for people." I typed back, "Animals are lives too. You have so much love to give. Sharing a little with them counts as building good karma. I'm sure they'll bless you and Lucas with health and safety." This time, she was silent for a long time before replying with a single word. "Yeah." I turned off my phone, looked at the plate licked clean by the cats, and a cold smile curled my lips. "Amanda, you like transferring luck, don't you? Let's see if your son can handle the blessings of a bunch of stray cats. In this life, I make the rules." Early the next morning, I was making breakfast for my parents when Amanda called. Her voice was filled with unconcealed panic and tears. "Zoe, it's bad. Something happened to Lucas." I sneered internally, but kept my tone concerned. "What happened?" "Amanda, don't panic, speak slowly." "I don't know. He suddenly started vomiting and having diarrhea in the middle of the night. We rushed him to the ER. The doctor said it's acute gastroenteritis, but they can't stop it. He's still suffering in there. She sounded like she was on the verge of a breakdown. How could this happen? He was fine yesterday. Don't panic. Kids get sick, it happens. Listen to the doctors. Which hospital are you at? I'll come over right now. As I spoke, I plated the fried eggs. No, don't come. The hospital is chaotic and full of germs. You just take care of your parents. Amanda hurriedly refused. She was probably guilty and afraid to let me get close. After hanging up, my mom came out of the kitchen with a glass of milk, looking worried. Was that Amanda? Is her son sick again? That poor child has been weak since he was born. I smiled. Mom, let's eat first. We shouldn't worry too much about other people's business. Living our own lives well is what matters. My mom paused, seemingly surprised that I would say such a thing. In my past life, I was even more enthusiastic than she was. Whenever Amanda had a problem, I was always the first to rush in and help. After breakfast, I insisted on taking my father to the hospital for a comprehensive checkup. In my past life, he started feeling unwell this month, but dragged it out until the end of the month. By the time the results came out, it was a death sentence. This time, I wouldn't let that tragedy repeat itself. My father couldn't win against my stubbornness, so he had to follow me to the hospital. After a series of tests, it was already afternoon. We sat in the doctor's office, waiting for the final results. Mr. Miller, your daughter is really filial, dragging you here for a checkup so early. The doctor reading the report was Dr. Lee, a kind, middle-aged man. He adjusted his glasses, comparing the results with my father's physical exam from last year. A look of surprise on his face. My heart instantly jumped into my throat. What is it, doctor? Is there a problem? Dr. Lee shook his head, pointing at a few indicators on the report, clicking his tongue in wonder. Strange. This is really strange. In your physical last year, your PSA levels were elevated. Although still within the normal range, they were borderline and needed close observation. I even told you to check back regularly. But today, not only has the number not gone up, it's dropped to a very healthy level. He paused and added, also your blood pressure and cholesterol are both better than last year. Robert, have you been taking some miracle drug? Your body functions are like those of someone several years younger. My father looked pleasantly surprised. Really? I told you I've been feeling particularly comfortable lately. Full of energy. My suspended heart finally settled back into place. My eyes felt hot, and I almost shed tears. It worked. The system's backlash had begun. I supported my father as we walked out of the hospital. The afternoon sun was warm and gentle, feeling indescribably comfortable on my skin. My father was still happily chatting away, saying he wanted to treat us to a big dinner. My phone vibrated. It was a message from Amanda. A photo of Lucas lying in a hospital bed hooked up to and for. The caption read, tossed and turned all day, finally a bit better. My poor baby. I looked at the photo. Lucas's small face was pale and haggard, lifeless. Meanwhile, my father beside me was vigorously planning his retirement trip. I put away my phone and replied calmly, take good care of Lucas. He'll get better. Amanda, this is just the beginning. Every shred of health and every ounce of luck you stole from my family, I will make you pay back with interest. That evening my husband, Sean, returned from his business trip. As soon as he entered the door, he threw his briefcase on the sofa and loosened his tie, complaining, I'm exhausted. This project nearly killed me. I handed him a glass of warm water as usual. He took a sip, then seemed to suddenly remember something. By the way, Amanda called me this afternoon crying. She said Lucas is sick. Did you know? A woman dealing with that all alone. She was sobbing so hard, it broke my heart. I paused for a second, then spoke flatly. I know. I heard about it this morning. Then why didn't you react? You didn't go see them? Sean frowned, a hint of blame in his tone. I remember you used to be so worried about Lucas. What were you doing all day? I took Dad to the hospital for a checkup. Isn't Dad's health fine? Why waste money on a checkup? He took off his jacket and tossed it onto a chair. Amanda is the one who really needs help right now, and here you are, slacking off at home. Listening to his self-righteous accusation, I just found it laughable. This was my husband, Sean. A man who always prioritized other people's business over his own family's, especially when the other person was a pitiful single mother. In my past life, when my parents fell critically ill one after another, he did nothing but complain that I wasn't taking good care of them or accuse me of spending too much money. Yet, when Amanda's son had a simple cold or fever, he would drive across town in the middle of the night to deliver medicine or soup. Back then, I thought he was just kind-hearted. Now I realized he was just incurably stupid. Sean, I looked at him calmly. First, Dad's health is more important than anything. Second, Amanda is an able-bodied adult. Her son is sick, he has doctors, and she can handle it herself. Third, and most importantly, I am your wife, not her nanny. Sean choked on my words. He looked at me in disbelief, as if I were a stranger. Zoe, did you take the wrong meds today? Why are you acting like this? You weren't like this before. People change. I didn't want to argue with him anymore, and turned to go to the kitchen. He grabbed my arm, raising his voice. Did you hear some gossip? Amanda and I are innocent. It's not easy for her to raise a child alone. We're neighbors, we're friends, isn't it right to help each other? How can you be so cold-blooded, so selfish? Not easy. I shook off his hand and sneered. What's not easy about her life? She doesn't have a job, yet she lives in a high-end gated community, drives a luxury car worth 80 grand, and sends Lucas to the most expensive private kindergartens and enrichment classes. You tell me, where does her money come from? In my previous life, I never questioned these things. I simply assumed she might have a wealthy ex-husband, or had inherited a fortune. Sean's face changed color. He stammered, That's her business. Why do you care so much? I just know she's a lonely woman, and we should help if we can. Right. I nodded, picked up the empty food box from the table, and held it out to him. That's why when she sent over those pastries, I helped her feed them to the stray cats. Helping her build good karma. That counts as helping her, right? Sean looked at the empty box, his face turning red with anger. You're simply unreasonable. That was a gift from her heart. How could you waste it like that? A gift from her heart that required my dad to pay with his life. I stared dead into his eyes, asking word for word. What nonsense are you talking about? He jumped like a cat whose tail had been stepped on, instantly furious. I think you're sick. Is it your postpartum depression acting up again? You're imagining things all day. That phrase again. In my past life, whenever I raised the slightest question about his excessive intimacy with Amanda, he would use postpartum depression to shut me up. I was tired. I didn't want to waste any more breath on him. Think whatever you want. I turned, walked into the bedroom, and closed the door. Outside, I could hear him cursing in frustration. I leaned against the door panel and slowly closed my eyes. This marriage was over. But before the divorce, I needed to check our family's finances. Sean worked in investment and he had always managed the family money. I had a strong premonition that Amanda's seemingly glamorous life was inextricably linked to my good husband. It took nearly a week for Lucas to recover. When he was discharged, his small face was sallow, and he had lost a visible amount of weight. Amanda must have been getting anxious. After laying low for a few days, she showed up at our door again. This time, she was holding an antique-style velvet box. As soon as she saw my mom, she greeted her enthusiastically. Auntie, I went specifically to the famous temple of the reclining Buddha outside the city to ask for a consecrated jade amulet for you. Put it on quickly. It will bless you with health and peace year after year. I looked at the box and my heart sank. Here it comes. In my past life, my mom put on this so-called amulet and immediately began suffering from insomnia every night. Her mind became hazy, but the hospital couldn't find anything wrong. The doctors just said it was menopause syndrome. But I knew it wasn't. My mom, flattered by Amanda's words, reached out to take it. Oh, Amanda, you're so thoughtful. You shouldn't have spent the money. Mom, I stepped forward, blocking my mother, and smiled at Amanda. Amanda, this is too expensive. We can't accept it. Oh, Zoe, don't be a stranger. The smile on Amanda's face didn't change, but there was a forceful assertiveness in it. I prayed for Auntie's safety. It's a gesture of love, not about money. If Auntie doesn't accept it, she's not giving me face. As she spoke, she opened the box. A jade safety buckle, emerald green with excellent translucency, lay quietly inside. It looked incredibly expensive. My mom was instantly attracted by the green hue. It's beautiful. As long as you like it, Auntie. Amanda smiled smugly, took out the amulet, and made a move to put it around my mom's neck. Wait. I stopped her again. A flash of impatience crossed Amanda's eyes, but she asked patiently, Zoe, what is it now? I got this consecrated by a grand master. It only does good, no harm. I couldn't directly say there was a problem with the object that would only lead to endless arguments and suspicion. I had to think of a foolproof plan. I looked at the hot pot bubbling and steaming on the dining table, and an idea sparked. Amanda, don't misunderstand. I pulled my mom's hand, looking troubled. The main thing is that my mom has very sensitive skin. She can't wear jade. The moment she puts it on, she gets a red rash. It's itchy and painful. We've tried many times. My mom paused, about to say something, but I squeezed her hand secretly and gave her a look. Amanda clearly didn't believe it. She looked at my mom. Auntie, is that true? Although confused, my mom played along and nodded. Yes, a little bit. How can that be? Jade nourishes people. It's impossible to be allergic to it. Amanda frowned. Her goal today was clear. She had to make my mom wear this amulet. Maybe she has a unique constitution. I sighed, taking the jade buckle from her hand and pretending to admire it with regret. It's a shame for such a nice thing. Look at this clarity, this color. It must be very expensive, right? A trace of arrogance appeared on Amanda's face. It's okay, just a few $1,000s. As long as Auntie is healthy, it's worth any amount. A few $1,000s. A single mom with no job casually giving away gifts worth thousands. Sean, if you aren't behind this, I'll eat my hat. I sneered inwardly, but physically, I pretended to lose my grip. Oops. The emerald green jade buckle flew in a perfect parabola and dropped precisely into the boiling spicy beef tallow hot pot in the center of the table. With a soft sizzle, the red oil rolled over it, swallowing the green instantly. The living room fell into a dead silence. Amanda's face went white in a split second. Her eyes bulged, staring fixedly at the hot pot. Zoe, you. She was trembling with rage, unable to speak. I immediately put on a panicked act, apologizing and stomping my foot. I'm sorry, Amanda. My hand slipped. I really didn't mean to. What do we do? Fish it out quick. My dad hurriedly grabbed a slotted spoon and stirred around in the red oil for a while before fishing out the jade buckle. But the originally translucent green jade had turned dull and gray, covered in a spiderweb of fine cracks. It was ruined. What happened? My mom asked in surprise. I offered a perfectly timed explanation. I heard that real A-grade jade is very hard and won't be damaged by heat. Unless it's B-grade or C-grade jade that's been chemically treated. The structure is unstable, so its true form is revealed when it meets high temperatures. As soon as I said this, Amanda's face went from pale to beet red, then to iron gray. She had probably intended to use a cheap fake worth $50 to trade for decades of my mother's lifespan. But she hadn't expected me to expose it on the spot like this. She stared at the ruined jade, her lips quivering, but couldn't refute a single word. After all, she couldn't admit she had intentionally brought a fake to fool an elder. Finally, she gritted her teeth and squeezed out a sentence. It's fine. If it broke, it broke. It blocked a disaster. Auntie, I just remembered I have something to do. I'm leaving. With that, she rushed out of my house without looking back, fleeing like a dog with its tail between its legs. Watching the direction she disappeared, I slowly revealed a victorious smile. Amanda, your tricks don't work on me anymore. 2 consecutive failures damaged Amanda's reserve significantly. Not only did she fail to absorb any lifespan, but due to the backlash, her son Lucas's health deteriorated further, sending him to the hospital every few days. She finally realized I was no longer the fool she could manipulate at will. She began to act cautiously. She stopped giving gifts openly and switched tactics. She started frequently asking me out for shopping or afternoon tea, probing me with every sentence. Zoe, have you been in a bad mood lately? I noticed you don't smile much. In the cafe, she stirred her latte, looking at me with concern. I leaned back on the sofa and said lazily, "No, I'm good. I just feel like, well, living for others used to be so exhausting. I've figured it out now. To live, you have to love yourself first." Her hand paused, and she forced a smile. "It's good that you figured it out. But we're best friends. If you have anything going on, don't hide it from me." Looking at her bloodshot eyes and the anxiety she couldn't hide, I decided to take the initiative. "Mandy," I put down my coffee cup, leaned forward, and lowered my voice. "To be honest, I did encounter something weird recently." Her eyes lit up instantly, and she leaned closer involuntarily. "What kind of weird thing?" "I had a dream a few days ago," I said mysteriously. "I dreamt of an old man with a white beard. He said someone put a curse on our family to transfer our good luck to someone else. He also said the way to break it is to refuse gifts from others, especially items that carry a strong blessing intent. Otherwise, we'll fall into the trap." As I spoke, I stared intently at Amanda's face. I watched the color drain from her complexion at a visible speed, her hand holding the coffee cup beginning to tremble slightly. What nonsense are you talking about? What era is this? You believe in that stuff." She laughed dryly, her eyes darting around. "I didn't believe it either. But ever since I stopped accepting your gifts, my dad's health has improved, while Lucas—" I didn't finish the sentence, just looking at her meaningfully. "Lucas getting sick is because he has a weak constitution. What does that have to do with you?" Her voice suddenly became sharp, like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. "Is that so?" I smiled slightly and doubled down. "That old man also said this kind of curse is very domineering. It only works if the recipient accepts and appreciates it from the bottom of their heart. Also, the higher the value of the gift in the recipient's heart, the more luck gets transferred." What exactly are you trying to say?" Amanda's lips were completely bloodless. She looked at me with terror and disbelief. She probably never dreamed I would know so much. She wouldn't suspect I had been reborn, she would only think I had truly met some high-level mystic. I wanted her to think exactly that. I leaned back into the sofa, picked up my coffee, took a slow sip, and then said slowly, "I don't want to say anything. I just think it's better if we give fewer gifts in the future, to avoid hurting our friendship. After all, everyone earns their luck through hard work. Why should we give it away for free? Don't you agree, Mandy?" I whispered that last sentence almost right against her ear. I saw the hair on her arms stand up. She stood up abruptly, knocking over the coffee cup on the table. The hot liquid spilled all over her, but she didn't seem to feel it. She stumbled backward, looking at me like I was a demon. I have things to do. I'm leaving." She dropped the words and fled in a panic. Watching her wretched figure retreat, the smile on my lips deepened. "Amanda, I know the core secret of your system now. From today on, the hunter becomes the hunted." Having figured out the system's rules, I launched my counterattack plan. The opportunity came quickly. Amanda posted a plea for help on her social media. Essentially, Lucas needed an imported targeted drug. It was expensive and the purchasing channels were complicated. She asked her almighty friends list if anyone had a connection. In my past life, seeing this message, I used my parents' connections and money without a second thought. It took massive effort to get the medicine for her. She hugged me, weeping with gratitude, saying I was her savior for life. Thinking back, that debt of gratitude probably siphoned off a significant amount of my family's lifespan. This time I didn't comment. I waited half a day to ensure no one else could help her before calling her directly. On the other end of the line, she sounded exhausted and desperate. "Mandy, I saw your post," I said straight to the point. "Zoe." She sounded like she was crying. "I really have no other way. The doctor said if we don't get the medicine, Lucas will." "Don't worry. I'll help you with this," I said firmly. She froze, seemingly expecting me to refuse. She asked hesitantly, Didn't you say you shouldn't casually?" I said I couldn't casually accept things. I never said I couldn't give things. I smiled. My tone as gentle as an angel. Amanda, we're best friends. Your son is my son. How could I leave him to die? There was a long silence on the other end. I could imagine her expression right now. Shock mixed with ecstasy. And a trace of suspicion she couldn't shake. How about this? I continued. I know this medicine costs about $30,000. I'll lend you the money first. You write me an IOU, and then I'll ask my contact to buy the medicine for you. How does that sound? IOU. Yeah, I said as if it were obvious. Even brothers keep clear accounts. Besides, I'm lending you money, not giving you a gift. It definitely won't trigger that curse you're worried about. I put heavy emphasis on the words lend and give. Amanda fell silent again. She was smart. She understood my meaning instantly. Legally, this was a loan. With an IOU as proof, she had to pay it back. But from the system's perspective, my behavior right now was undoubtedly a gift of aid. She was in a dilemma. If she didn't accept, her son wouldn't have money for treatment. If she accepted, she risked me reversing the luck absorption. In the end, love for her son conquered her fear of me. Okay. She made up her mind. Zoe, thank you. I'll remember your kindness for the rest of my life. Don't mention it. I chuckled softly. Send me your account number. I'll have Sean transfer the money immediately. Remember, this money is a blessing from my whole family to Lucas. You must accept it, or you're looking down on us. I emphasized the word blessing again. After hanging up, I slapped the evidence I had prepared, proof of Sean misappropriating our joint assets for failed investments, in front of him. You give me that 30 grand right now, or we'll meet in court. Sean looked at the evidence, his face ashen. He couldn't believe that I, who usually obeyed him, had gathered so much dirt on him behind his back. Eventually, he unwillingly transferred the $30,000 to Amanda's card. As soon as the money arrived, Amanda sent me a photo of the signed IOU. I looked at the IOU and smiled with satisfaction. Amanda, the game has just begun. The most wonderful things started happening the very next day. First, it was Sean. He came home dejected but told me that the project he'd been stuck in for nearly a year had miraculously unraveled today. Not only did he not lose money, but he made a small profit. He couldn't figure it out and called it dumb luck. Then it was me. My mom dragged me to the mall, filled out a raffle ticket on a whim, and won the grand prize, a family sedan worth $40,000. Even my dad, playing chess in the neighborhood, won 7 or 8 games in a row, crushing his old rival completely. He was incredibly smug about it. My family seemed to be shrouded in an invisible cloud of good fortune. On Amanda's side, however, the situation was the exact opposite. My contact was reliable, and the medicine was purchased quickly. But the day after Lucas took it, he had a severe allergic reaction. Rashes covered his body, his fever wouldn't break, and he was sent back to the ER. The doctor found that Lucas had an extremely rare allergic constitution and was intolerant to a specific component in that targeted drug. The $30,000 of medicine was money down the drain. Amanda cried on the phone until she couldn't breathe, saying she must have had 8 lifetimes of bad luck to be hit with everything at once. While I comforted her with gentle words, I clearly felt an invisible force flowing from her and her son to my family. I finally understood this lifespan transfer system. It transferred not just lifespan in the narrow sense, but something more mystical, karma, or chi. Health, wealth, opportunities, even trivial little joys fell under the category of karma. It followed a weird law of conservation. If one side gained, the other must lose. And this rule was bidirectional. When I gave her a blessing, I didn't lose my own luck. Instead, I acted like an energy converter, absorbing the luck from her and her son, and converting it into good fortune for my family. The more sincere my gift, and the more grateful she was in accepting it, the higher the conversion efficiency. Thinking this through, everything became clear. I had found the true way to play this system. Amanda, you like playing this game? Fine, I'll play with you until the end. I will make you willingly pay back everything you stole from my family doubled. Looking at that $30,000 IOU, a bolder plan slowly formed in my mind. Amanda was completely panicked. Her son's illness hadn't improved. Instead, due to the drug allergy, his constitution had become even weaker. Meanwhile, my family was visibly flourishing with good luck. She finally realized she had turned from hunter to prey. To reverse the situation, she began a nearly frantic gifting offensive. She seemed to think that as long as the blessings she sent were numerous and valuable enough, she could suck back the lost luck. Today, she came to the door carrying a box of top-tier wild ginseng, smiling broadly. "Uncle, Auntie, I asked a friend to bring this from abroad. It's great for restoring vitality. You must try it." I accepted it all, smiling. "Amanda, you're too kind." I turned around and anonymously donated the ginseng in Amanda's name to a charity organization that provided nutritional support for impoverished cancer patients. Tomorrow, she sent a box of premium Manuka honey, exhorting my dad to drink it daily for longevity. I nodded and said, "Okay, thank you." Then I sent the honey, again in Amanda's name, to the solitary elderly people in the community, attaching a card, wishing the grandpas and grandmas good health and a long life. The day after, she sent expensive bird's nest and cordyceps. Her gifts became more and more expensive, and the smile on her face more and more forced. And I accepted them with pleasure every time, then immediately turned around and passed these blessings to people who needed them more. I even learned to improvise. Every time I completed a donation, I would take a photo of the donation certificate or the grateful recipient and send it to Amanda with enthusiastic text. "Mandy, the Bodhisattva sees your kindness. Grandma Zhang at the hospice hospital told me to thank you. She said it was the best honey she's ever tasted. Mandy, look how happy the kids are. The director of the welfare home said thanks to the nutritional supplements you donated, a big problem was solved. You are a living saint." Amanda could only reply with an awkward smiley face each time. I could imagine how twisted her face looked when she saw these messages. She sent out poison meant to steal lifespan, but I turned that poison into merit for her, broadcasting good karma to the world. She was riding a tiger and couldn't get off. Stopping the gifts meant admitting defeat. Continuing meant her blessings flowed continuously through me to all directions. She probably would never figure out why the system judged it this way. But I understood. Because every time I re-gifted, I genuinely hoped those suffering people would get help. My intention to bless was sincere and pure, far more powerful than her filthy intention to steal. After a month, Amanda's savings were depleted at an alarming rate, and she looked haggard. My family, however, because of the hidden merit I accumulated for her, had reached a peak of good fortune. My parents were healthier than ever, Sean got promoted, and even the few stocks I bought casually hit their daily limit repeatedly. Looking at the growing numbers in my bank account and Amanda's increasingly gray face, I had only one thought: not enough. Compared to the blood debt of 3 lives in my past existence, this price was far from enough. Amanda's financial situation finally flashed red. Her luxury car was quietly sold and replaced with a cheap compact. Her designer bags and clothes disappeared. What broke her even more was that not only did Lucas not get better, but he developed new complications requiring a huge sum for treatment. She finally couldn't hold on and sought out Sean late one night. They met in the garden downstairs. I could see them clearly from my bedroom window. Amanda was weeping like a pear blossom bathed in rain, trembling all over. And my good husband Sean was handing her tissues with a pained expression, gently patting her back to comfort her. The sight was as piercing as a needle in my eye. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but I didn't need to guess. Amanda must be crying to him, asking for help, and casually throwing some dirt on me while she was at it. Sure enough, half an hour later, Sean came home with a dark face. He slammed his keys onto the console table as soon as he entered and shouted at me, "Zoe Miller, what exactly are you trying to do? Will you only be satisfied when you've driven Amanda to her death?" I was sitting on the sofa with a face mask on. I didn't even bother to lift my eyelids. She chose to throw her money into the water. What does that have to do with me? Into the water? Sean's voice grew louder. Who was it for? It was to give gifts to our parents, to please you. And you? You took everything she gave and gave it away to strangers, and now you're making sarcastic remarks. How did I not notice before that your heart is so vicious, so mean? Vicious? I slowly peeled off the mask, stood up, and looked him in the eye. Sean, get this straight. She brought those things willingly. I didn't hold a knife to her neck. As for how I dispose of them, that's my freedom. Your freedom? Have you thought about her situation? He was red with anger. She's a single mom. Now her savings are gone, and her son is lying in the hospital waiting for life-saving money. Do you have no sympathy at all? Sympathy? I laughed, tears almost forming in my eyes. Then tell me, where did a jobless single mother get the money to buy cars, houses, and expensive gifts? Was the down payment on her apartment secretly paid by you using our joint savings? Sean's pupils constricted violently. The anger on his face instantly turned into panic and guilt. You, what nonsense are you talking about? Nonsense. I walked to the study, pulled a stack of documents from the drawer, and threw them in his face. These are our bank statements for the last 3 years. There are dozens of transfers totaling over $70,000, all flowing to an account named Yuan. And this Yuan is your college classmate and Amanda's older sister, right? I looked at his pale face and continued. Did you think you were seamless? Did you think I was still the fool who knew nothing? Sean, not only did you use our money to support another woman and her child, but now you turn around and accuse me of being vicious. Do you have the right? Every sentence was like a slap, hitting him hard across the face. He was completely stunned, his lips trembling, unable to say a word. Looking at his pathetic appearance, the last bit of affection I had for him vanished into thin air. Sean, I announced calmly, let's get a divorce. He snapped his head up, eyes full of fear. No, Zoe, I was wrong, listen to me. I don't want to listen. I interrupted him. The moment you chose to stand with Amanda and accuse me, we were done. He was probably afraid I would take his assets. Desperate, he shouted incoherently. I won't agree. Zoe, don't push me. If you treat Amanda like this again, don't blame me if I. Don't blame you for what? I looked at him coldly. Are you going to hit me for her? Just then my phone rang. It was Amanda. I pressed speakerphone right in front of Sean. On the other end, Amanda's voice came through, tearful but filled with a strange, eerie triumph. Zoe, Sean told me everything. I'm sorry, it's all my fault. I made you misunderstand. Please don't fight with him, and definitely don't talk about divorce. We have so many years of friendship. We can't let it end because of me. Her pick-me act completely ignited the last shred of my rationality. I spoke into the phone, articulating every word clearly. Amanda, stop acting. Isn't this exactly the result you wanted? Now I'll give it to you. Just wait. I will make you and that cheater roll out of my life together. The showdown with Sean and that ill-timed phone call pushed Amanda completely into a corner. She knew she couldn't rely on Sean as a pawn for the time being, and I had become her greatest enemy. Her son's condition in the hospital was deteriorating. The doctors had even issued a critical condition notice. All roads were blocked. She had only one final gamble left. She had to give a gift that I couldn't refuse, couldn't re-gift, and was worth a fortune, to suck back everything she had lost in one go. She disappeared for 3 days. 3 days later, she appeared at my door again. She looked like a different person, haggard, aged, but a fire of desperate madness burned in her eyes. She didn't look at me. Instead, she walked straight to my parents and dropped to her knees with a thud. Uncle, Auntie, I've wronged you, and I've wronged Zoe. Tears streamed down her face as she knocked her forehead heavily against the floor. I did some wrong things before, and made Zoe angry. I know nothing I say can make up for it. I just want to do one last thing for you. My parents were startled by her behavior, and hurried to help her up. I watched coldly, not moving. I knew her big move was coming. Amanda took a document out of her bag, and handed it to my dad with trembling hands. Uncle, next month is your 60th birthday. I pooled all my remaining savings, plus some money from my sister, and bought a jade Buddha. I want to donate this jade Buddha to the city's largest Kaiyuan monastery in your name at your birthday banquet, to pray for your longevity, and to witness the friendship between our two families. She looked up at my dad with teary eyes. This jade Buddha is worth $500,000. Uncle, this is my last bit of sincerity. Please, I beg you, you must accept it. $500,000. donated publicly to a temple in my father's name. What a move! Pulling the firewood from under the cauldron. I couldn't refuse this gift, because refusing would make me look unfilial, mean, and heartless in front of all our relatives and friends. I also couldn't re-gift it, because it was being donated directly to a temple. The recipient was the Buddha, the gods themselves. I couldn't exactly transfer the Buddha's merit to someone else. Once my dad signed the donation agreement, it would mean he had sincerely accepted this blessing, worth $500,000. In that instant, the system would judge a massive lifespan transfer. My dad's life would be drained dry in seconds. And Amanda would not only bring her son back from the dead, but also earn back the luck she had lost hundreds of times over. What a vicious scheme. I looked at her face, written full of repentance and sincerity, and felt cold inside. She had gone completely mad to win. My father, a kind-hearted man all his life, couldn't see the sinister intent behind this. He was deeply moved by Amanda's actions. His eyes red, he kept saying, good child, get up quickly. Uncle accepts your heart, but we can't take this money. Take it back to treat Lucas. No. Amanda knelt on the ground, shaking her head stubbornly, tears falling like broken beads. Uncle, this is the only way I can atone. Lucas's illness might be God punishing me. Only by doing this great deed of merit can I accumulate blessings for him. If you don't agree, you're killing me. Her words were so emotional that my parents were completely swayed. Even Sean, who had been hiding in his room, came out. With a moved expression, he urged me, Zoe, look at Amanda. Just forgive her. This is a good deed to build karma for Dad. Just nod. Everyone stood on Amanda's side. They used morality, family affection, and public opinion to surround me. In that moment, I felt like I was back in my previous life. That suffocating feeling of being isolated and unable to defend myself drowned me again. I looked into Amanda's eyes. Deep in her gaze hid a trace of imperceptible, triumphant sneering. She figured I had no way out. She thought she had won. I was silent for a long time. Long enough for the air in the living room to solidify. Then I slowly nodded. Okay. I said just one word. A light of ecstatic joy burst into Amanda's eyes, though she quickly masked it with a sad expression. My parents and Sean all breathed a sigh of relief. I looked at them and calmly stated my conditions. Since it's a great deed to pray for my dad, it shouldn't be done hastily. I turned to Amanda, smiling. Let's hold the donation ceremony at my dad's 60th birthday banquet. I'll send invitations to all our friends and family. We should also invite reporters from the TV station to publicize Ms. Amanda's kindness properly. I want the whole city to see that I, Zoe Miller, have such a deeply affectionate best friend. My words made Amanda's expression stiffen. She probably hadn't expected me to actively ask to make a huge scene. But on second thought, the bigger the scene, the more people present, the less room I had to back out. It was a public execution for me, but the grandest stage for her. Okay, she gritted her teeth and agreed. Whatever you say. Great, it's settled then. I picked up the donation intent form from the table and handed it back to her. See you at the banquet. She took the document, stumbled to her feet, and flashed a victor's smile at me. I returned it with an equally brilliant smile. Amanda, you've prepared a grand funeral for yourself. I'm very happy to personally open the curtains for you. Father's 60th birthday was booked at the city's most luxurious hotel. I sent out over 100 invitations. Almost every relative and friend remotely connected to us came. I also used some connections to invite reporters from the local TV lifestyle channel to cover this touching charity donation ceremony. The banquet hall was buzzing with voices and clinking glasses. My father, wearing a brand new suit, accepted everyone's blessings with a glowing face. Sean, acting like a dutiful husband, bustled around me greeting guests, a fake smile plastered on his face. Only I knew the murderous intent hidden behind this liveliness. At 8 p.m., the auspicious time had arrived. The MC walked onto the stage and announced in a passionate voice, "Next, we will proceed to the most exciting and touching part of this banquet. Please welcome the birthday star, Mr. Robert Miller, and his close friend, the philanthropist Ms. Amanda." Amidst thunderous applause, my dad and Amanda walked onto the stage side by side. Amanda had dressed carefully today. She wore a simple, elegant white dress and exquisite light makeup, looking pitiful and holy as an angel. Two hostesses brought the $500,000 jade Buddha onto the stage on a red velvet tray, carved from a single block of top-grade white jade, crystal clear and solemn. Its reveal drew gasps of amazement from the audience. Amanda took the microphone, her voice choked with emotion, eyes filled with tears. She began a deeply moving speech, talking about the profound friendship between her and my father, how he was like a father to her, how our families helped each other over the years, and how she walked out of the low points in her life under the Miller family's care. So today, I am willing to give everything to offer this blessing to Uncle Robert. She looked at my dad affectionately. This jade Buddha will be donated to Kayuan Monastery in Mr. Robert Miller's personal name. May the Buddha's light shine down, blessing Uncle with health, longevity, and peace. The applause below was thunderous. Countless relatives and friends looked at my dad with envy and admiration. Robert, that goddaughter of yours is worth it. Yeah, you don't find young people with such deep loyalty anymore. Even the TV reporters had their cameras trained on Amanda's kind face, clicking their shutters frantically. The abbot of Kayuan Monastery had also been invited. He pressed his palms together and bowed slightly to Amanda. Donor Amanda has boundless merit. Saying this, he handed a pre-prepared donation certificate to my father. Donor Miller, please sign. From this moment on, your benevolent act will be forever recorded in our temple's book of merit. My dad was so excited his hands were shaking. He picked up the pen about to sign his name. The corners of Amanda's mouth were already starting to curl up uncontrollably. Her eyes stared fixedly at the tip of my dad's pen, filled with unconcealed greed and hunger. Success or failure hung on this single action. As long as this signature went down, she would instantly turn the tables. And my father would drain his life force in front of everyone, collapsing on this stage prepared specifically for him. The whole world seemed to go quiet, leaving only the sound of my own heart beating violently. Now, wait a minute. A clear voice cut through the solemn and touching atmosphere. I pushed Sean aside and walked onto the stage, step by step. Everyone's eyes focused on me instantly. Confusion, puzzlement, surprise. Zoe, what are you doing? Get down. My dad frowned, scolding me in a low voice. Amanda's face darkened instantly, a flash of panic crossing her eyes. Zoe. I ignored them. Instead, I took another microphone from the MC, faced all the guests below, and smiled slightly. Distinguished guests, dear friends and family, hello. Today is a great day for my father's 60th birthday, and also a day to witness the selfless kindness of my best friend, Ms. Amanda. As a daughter, I am truly too moved. I turned to Amanda, my smile becoming even brighter. Mandy, this gift is simply too heavy. So heavy that our family cannot bear it. The audience broke into an uproar. Amanda's face had turned pale. Zoe, what do you mean? I stopped smiling, my eyes suddenly becoming sharp. What you are giving is not a blessing at all, but a death warrant. I took out my phone and connected it to the projector I had set up earlier. The next second, surveillance footage from my living room appeared on the big screen behind the stage. The picture showed the conversation between Amanda and me in the coffee shop. This kind of curse is very domineering. It only works if the recipient accepts and appreciates it from the bottom of their heart. Also, the higher the value of the gift in the recipient's heart, the more luck gets transferred. My voice, amplified by the microphone, echoed clearly in every corner of the banquet hall. Immediately after, photos began to play on the screen. Expensive wild ginseng being delivered to cancer patients, 1,000-year-old herbs warming the winter of lonely elderly people. Every poison she sent had turned into tangible merit. The entire venue was deathly silent. Everyone was speechless, stunned by this shocking reversal. Sean collapsed in his chair, his face ashen. My parents looked at the screen, their faces written with shock and pain. And Amanda stood frozen like a statue struck by lightning, trembling like a sieve. No, it's not, she muttered to herself. It's not like that. I walked up to her, looking down at her, my voice cold as a knife. Amanda, you use a system to suck the lifespan and luck of my family to feed your sickly son. Did you think I really didn't know? Did you think this final gamble would let you turn the tables? You were wrong. I took the donation certificate and pen from my father's hand and announced loudly in front of everyone. Our family acknowledges Ms. Amanda's merit. But this blessing worth $500,000 is too heavy. Therefore, I have decided to transfer this merit, entirely in Ms. Amanda's name, to the National Stray Animal Rescue Fund. With that, I signed the name Amanda in the donor's spot with a flourish. The moment I lifted the pen, the phone in Amanda's pocket let out a piercing ring. She frantically pulled out her phone and answered. From the other end came the doctor's anxious and desperate voice. Is this Ms. Amanda? It's bad. Your son Lucas just went into sudden heart failure. We've done everything we can. Please come to the hospital immediately. No. The phone fell to the ground, shattering into pieces. Amanda's eyes lost all their light. She slowly looked up at me, her mouth opening and closing, but she couldn't make a sound. Then, a hiss that didn't sound human came from her throat. Her eyes rolled back, and she fell straight backward. The system judged that the massive merit she had sincerely given was transferred by me. The unprecedented backlash instantly drained all the life force from her and her son. Game over. The birthday banquet turned into an utter farce. Amanda was rushed to the hospital, but everyone knew she was finished. Her mask of hypocrisy had been torn to shreds by me in public, exposing a heart as venomous as a scorpion under the flashing lights. The TV reporters were going crazy with excitement. They had filmed the entire process, sensing this would be the most explosive social news of the year. The way friends and family looked at us was full of sympathy, fear, and relief. Some relatives who were close to Amanda turned pale, wondering if they had ever received little gifts from her, and if any bad luck had befallen their families afterward. After the banquet, several relatives stated on the spot that they were going to the police. A joint accusation against Amanda regarding fraud, cursing, and even intentional harm began to unfold. As for my good husband Sean, he crawled up from the floor, rushed to me, grabbed my arm, and wept bitterly. Zoe, I was wrong. I was really wrong. I was blind. She tricked me. Forgive me, give me another chance, please. Looking at his fake face, I only felt nausea. I yanked my hand away, took the divorce agreement I had prepared out of my bag, and threw it in his face. Sean, sign it. I've written the property division clearly. Split 70-30. Because of your infidelity and severe misconduct, the house and car go to me. As for the $70,000 you secretly transferred to Amanda, I will pursue it through legal channels. If you don't agree, I'll see you in court. No, Zoe, you can't do this to me. He slumped to the ground, wailing. We've been married for so many years. From the moment you chose to help her accuse me, all that was left between us was a legal relationship. I looked at him indifferently, like looking at trash. Sign or get out. Pick one. He looked at the resolve in my eyes and knew there was no room for redemption. Finally, with a trembling hand, he signed his name on the divorce agreement. Leaving with nothing, that was the price he paid for his stupidity and betrayal. After dealing with all this, I returned to my parents. They were still immersed in huge shock and fear. My mom held my hand, tears streaming down her face. Zoe, my daughter, you suffered so much. My dad looked self-reproachful and angry, slamming the table. I was blind to let a thief into the family. That poisonous woman deserves to be cut into 1,000 pieces. I hugged them, comforting them softly. Mom, Dad, it's all in the past. Yes, it was all in the past. The nightmare of my previous life and the feud of this life all came to an end tonight. I looked at the pitch-black night sky outside the window and let out a long breath. Dawn had finally broken. 1 year later, a small town in the south, bursting with spring. Sean and I had finalized the divorce long ago. After leaving with nothing, his reputation in the industry was completely ruined. He was forced to resign and went back to his hometown in disgrace. I heard he was living a very destitute life. Amanda's fate was even worse. Although she was resuscitated at the hospital, she had a complete mental breakdown after hearing the news of her son's death. She went insane. At the same time, the dozens of friends and family who filed police reports provided massive amounts of evidence regarding her suspected fraud and use of dark arts. Although systems couldn't be prosecuted by law, her fraudulent behavior was undeniable. In the end, considering her mental state, the court sentenced her to indefinite mandatory treatment in a psychiatric facility. All assets under her name, including the apartment Sean paid for, were auctioned by the court to compensate the victims and repay the debt she owed me. Everything she once owned turned to dust. I sold the apartment in the city, which was full of bad memories, and moved with my parents to this beautiful southern town with green hills and clear water. We bought a 2-story house with a yard. On a spring afternoon, the sun was shining perfectly. I was helping my mom plant a patch of roses in the yard, while my dad practiced Tai Chi with vigor nearby. His health was even better than a year ago. The neighbor's puppy ran over, wagging its tail and rubbing against my leg. I smiled, squatted down, and rubbed its furry head. Everything was so quiet, so beautiful. The happiness stolen in my previous life had returned to me in another way in this life. My mom straightened up, wiped the sweat from her forehead, looked at the garden full of spring light, and sighed. "Zoe, life now really feels like a dream." I stood up, walked to her side, took her arm and whispered, "Mom, this isn't a dream." I looked at the flower buds ready to bloom in the distance, my eyes calm and firm. This is just the life we were supposed to have. True protection is never about bottomless kindness and retreat. It's about seeing through the darkness of human nature, growing your own fangs, and then using your sharpest claws to defend everything you love. This spring, there was no Amanda, no Sean, no dirty schemes or betrayals. The sun fell on my face, warm and comforting. I knew that the truly good days for our family had just begun.